And we are live. It is 6:30 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, October the 7th, 2020. Welcome to NasCanucks, presented by Viberprint for all your custom printing needs. Search word NasCanucks and you'll find all of our merch. I'm your host, Ben, and alongside is my awesome cousin and co-host, Mr. Doug. How's it going?
Not bad. I'm not sure the people on the West Coast won't know what time it is because you didn't say it this week.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, that's right. 3:30 p.m. on the West Coast, which is the best coast.
There you go. So,
unless you're a NASCAR fan, because it's, we like the Southeast. And welcome to our viewer, whoever you may be. Hey, there he is, Ben Tom.
And yeah, so hoping we were going to get a few more viewers this week.
Mm-hmm.
We had the little shout out kind of.
We did.
Yesterday.
Yes, we got some acknowledgement from the legit NASCAR media because they don't consider us legit.
Because someone was like talking, called into Daniel Trotta and Larry McReynolds and was like, Kyle Larson, he could go to this Trackhouse Racing because he was a former partner with Justin Marks. And they were like, oh, we're not sure. And I'm like, hey, like 5 weeks ago, I kind of talked about this. Right. And then they said, well, he could go to Hendrick. Then the next caller in said, Hendrick probably won't let him drive his dirt car. And I was like, hey, that was talked about here too.
Yeah. And you texted me. You said, when did we talk about that? I was like a month ago.
Yeah.
And then you had posted up.
Well, I had to go back over because it wasn't in I couldn't just remember.
Right.
So I had to go back and then sent the tweet to Daniel Trotta and she liked it. So hopefully.
Maybe she checked it out.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Or other people checked out that seemed that she liked it, but
yeah. So awesome stuff. So we're talking NASCAR playoff. See, I almost said chase, but playoff coverage now. From Talladega, the largest oval track, tri-oval on the circuit. I was gonna say largest track on the circuit, but not if we include the road courses. So yes, restrictor plate racing. Some people love it. Some people hate it. It's been around since 1988, folks. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, unfortunately, because I'm in the hate it category. I'm still in the hate it category. I really wish they had just gone to V6 engines for the restrictor plate races back in the 80s, like Bobby Ellison had recommended, and Dale Earnhardt had recommended, and Darrell Waltrip had recommended, and, just some of the stalwarts of the series at the time. So, yes.
Yeah.
So we started out the first race of the weekend would have been the hell's it called? Gander outdoors?
They were doing me. Can't hear that, can you? Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, I heard it for a second.
Trying to go for something good. That was the Talladega Shuffle by the Backstretch Boys. No longer with us, but
there we are.
Talladega does have some good music about it.
So yes, the truck race. Dude, I thought you called it early on in the race. Sheldon Creed was pretty dominant. And then we had some shuffling going on.
The Talladega Shuffle.
A whole lot of action in many ways, although, there was some here and there, but you can't tandem race. You can only bump. You can't maintain contact, pushing a truck through the field, what have you.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, at the end of the race, I was on the edge of my seat because we were looking at a possibility of a Canadian 1-2.
Yeah. And really, you know what? Because of that, I don't remember a lick from the rest of the race.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just like, because I was pulling for Stuart Friesen, always forgetting, well, one, for those who've watched the series for a while or know me, I always pull for the field fillers, the smaller teams, the new teams, what have you. That's always kind of been my thing. And Stuart Friesen, new team this year after they broke away from multi-truck team, GFI or GMI or one of those type acronym, whatever. And managed to, through pit strategy and staying out here and there, whatever they did, they ended up out front for a couple of restarts, and that guy was driving that truck like it was 50 feet wide. Unfortunately, he needed to be 51 feet wide to avoid getting turned.
Yes.
But while he got turned, The Canadian, I always forget that's in the field because he drives for a top flight team, driving the 4 truck for KBM.
You had a KBM truck.
The young lad out of the Poutine province, out of Quebec, what's his first name?
Raphael Lessard.
Raphael. I knew he was one of the Ninja Turtles.
who gets out of the truck and you look at him going like, who let the 12-year-old driving?
Exactly. Shouldn't he be racing go-karts in Mont Tremblant?
Yeah. But yeah, no, looking young, and it's probably gotta say it's good for him to get a win because it's like he said in his interview that kind of been a tough rookie season for him.
Yes, it has.
Because he hasn't seen his family since the start of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so you got an 18-year-old kid from Quebec moving down to Mooresville to live. Right.
Yep.
So totally different culture. That's a culture shock to be 18 and on your own.
A lot less strip clubs in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Joke for our fellow Canucks watching.
Yes.
And young Raphael Lessard. See, I keep wanting to say Dominic. I'm like, no, he's not. He's the other Ninja Turtle.
Yeah.
I just assumed he was from Montreal. I'm like, oh, imagine that, an Italian French guy. From Quebec. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So finally gets a win. It's good to see. Yeah, I'm sure that's a weight lift off the shoulders because let's be honest, you get into a top ride, you have a lot of expectations going on. Yeah. So that brings us into
being a no name
Saturday.
Especially for him being like a no name down there. Like, who's this kid you're putting in the truck? Right. So
the Gaunt brothers are going, we know him.
Yeah.
But yeah, awesome stuff. Yeah, so that brings us into the next race of the day because it was a doubleheader on Saturday in some ways, or back-to-back races, which is awesome. Yeah. And it was interesting because we had, I want to say 13 Toyotas, 2 Fords, 0 Dodges, and a shit ton of Chevys. So yeah. So all we had heard was because 2 of the top drivers in the series, probably the 2 top drivers in many ways, Austin Cindric and Chase Briscoe are the only 2 cars out there running Fords. And the narrative was, well, these 2 cars got to work together. Manufacturers tell them they got to work together because they're the only 2 Fords. All right. Well, I'm going to say that, there's more than 2 Ford owners in the garage. Mm-hmm. And at a place like Talladega, where you're expected to try to work with somebody, team up per se, to run 2 car, necessarily tandem, but work together as a team. With the resources of Stewart-Haas Racing and Penske Racing, who generally run multiple cars in the field on any given week, for them to leave their drivers essentially high and dry as single car entries was a joke. The fact that Ford didn't step up and make sure there was a couple other teams running Fords in the field outside of 2 teams is a joke. Because thankfully, because I can't stand the guy, Cindric was taken out in the race, which of course he bitched about people driving aggressively. Like, that guy's never driven aggressive in his life. Well, if anything, it was nice. I think it might have been the 8 car that took him out.
Mm-hmm.
One of those guys. So, came down to a pretty wild finish. We were discussing off air. It looked like they were running 2 or 3 deep of about 5 wide.
Yeah. It's like right near that end, it was like, okay, we're just going to lose it and just go freaking nuts. But
yeah, nobody was working with each other. It was every man for himself. Team orders out the windows. And someone who's quickly becoming a restrictor plate ace.
Yes.
The most quiet domination of a particular genre, whatever you want to call it, his 3rd restrictor plate race win in a row, Alex Haley, who I always think's Canadian. Justin Haley.
Yes.
I don't know. Whatever.
Because there was a Haley running in the truck series out of Calgary, I believe.
Who may have been Alex Haley.
No, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. Yeah, because I always think.
I don't think it was Alex, though.
No.
It's a Haley. But anyway. So Junior had a little bit of a different take on that after the race with when Rick Allen did mention that he was, a 3-time winner or three restrictor plate races in a row, whatever the heck I'm trying to talk about.
At Talladega.
Yeah.
Yeah, with 3 restrictor plate wins in a row at Talladega alongside Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the booth. And then Dale Jr. in Dale Jr. fashion says, well, Dale Earnhardt did it here twice. So that doesn't mean, well, you don't know. You know what it doesn't mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Jeff Burton you could hear they muted his mic because it was just one of those, kind of in the back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was pretty good. Also, I do want to mention, that reminds me of something else. Jeff Burton did throw Junior under the bus during the race.
I think I do remember that.
Well, what happened was, Junior, Junior, much like Darrell Waltrip, likes to coach drivers from the broadcast booth, right? Except Junior's not as annoying when he does it. So he's like, get down. Okay. Yeah. Now you got your teammate. Okay. Now what you want to do, now get up top, because if you can run the line up top in a row, nobody can pass you, with the momentum up there. And they're like, okay, now they're strung out single file running around the top. And then Junior's like, now I know this isn't the most entertaining racing. And then Jeff Burton, without missing, goes, yeah, Junior, how much everybody picks your brain on how to get around here. And you always tell them, run around the top, which is the most boring racing. So folks, if you find this form of racing boring, blame Dale Earnhardt Jr. And it was just like, and I believe he may have said the same thing to him during the Sunday race.
You know what? I really like both those guys in the booth.
They are a good pair because they're not, like, I'm sure they're friends, but Jeff Burton is.
I'm gonna say older. But the NBC guys, with those two guys being in the booth, when you look at them and think regular guys, I'm thinking Junior and Burton. Even though Burton's called the mayor of the garage, he's still that regular guy.
Yeah. But he was also known as the mayor of the garage because he got along with everybody.
Well, he
was well-spoken, had great ideas.
And you know what? He said that on Junior's podcast, because I was watching back one of the Dirty Mo podcasts, and he said, I was just going for respect.
Right.
If I had respect from everyone else, then that's all I wanted.
Right. Sure.
Right? He didn't need the friendship; he just needed respect. And I'm thinking you get that from Junior as well too, because they're just regular guys, right?
Yeah.
You go to the other Fox broadcasts, they're shirt and tie guys. NBC guys aren't shirt and tie.
Yeah, because let's be honest, BW has been a shirt and tie guy since he's owned his own team.
Yeah, and Jeff Gordon, well, that just speaks for itself. But I just think it's Fox.
Yeah, you want to know the easiest way.
Fox broadcast is business. NBC is fun.
Yeah. And it's funny because the easiest way to tell is you watch one of those, race in an hour videos that they do on Fox Racing.
Yeah.
And you got either Jeff Gordon hosting, who's wearing a suit or a sports jacket and slacks, shirt and tie, or you have Junior wearing usually a red Exalta t-shirt.
Yeah. So just popping into my head here, NASCAR TV broadcasts are mullets. You get business up front, party on the back end.
Yep. And that's not just because we also have Rutledge during the second half of the season.
Yeah, but it's just, you got those business guys and then the party guys. So NASCAR TV is mullet TV.
Yeah. Yep. In a good way, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because, Jeff Burton started pretty young, and you think he came in just on the tails of your Davey Allisons and such. Yeah. So he came from driving the silhouette cars. I don't think he drove any of the previous gen, but silhouette cars of the early mid-90s into the late 90s. So he saw all that 90s stuff that Junior was a fan of.
Yeah.
And then, Junior comes in at 2000, and Jeff's pretty much at the peak of his career around that time. And so they had that nice decade or so overlap, which was great. And yeah, so it's two different generations, but it's not that huge gap like with Fox, where you got DW, who started in, let's be honest, the late 60s, early 72, I think was his first start. Mm-hmm. And Jeff Gordon was in 92.
Yeah. And let's all be thankful that NASCAR did pick Jeff and not Ward in the booth, because if once Junior gets excited and Ward would have got excited, you ain't going to know what they're talking about. The problem
is nobody knows where Ward is. He went off for a walk in the woods about 10 years ago.
I did see a video of him not long ago where during the shutdown COVID time, where he found a snake in his garage. He was kind of playing around with it a bit. It was kind of in true Ward fashion. He was kind of
as I recall, Ward has two sons. He has Jeb and I believe another son, and his other son is right into the whole wildlife outdoor conservation thing too. Yeah. So it's like literally the two sides of Ward was split into his two sons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious too how much Jeb and Harrison Burton talk.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think they're still kind of close.
Yeah. I'd be curious about that, because there is an age difference there too.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
And Harrison wreck at the end, but still another good run this weekend.
Yeah.
Tell you, as long as he keeps doing well, he'll be, my favorite driver for the Gibbs organization in Cup in the next 5 years or what have you.
Oh yeah, I think yeah, he's got a head like his dad when he races, and doesn't make many mistakes. I think he does have the respect of the other guys in the garage.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I did my rant about the lack of Fords in the field. Not that I'm a Ford fanboy or anything, but if you're gonna take the time to have contracted drivers, as Ford contracted drivers, and as I said off air, and screw it, I'll say it now. Like if it had come down to where Cindric and Briscoe had to push Cindric to the win, because that's what he was told to do, push a competitor, not even a teammate, but another team, his main rival in the championship, for a win, I'd be going to Ford and saying, "You're finding me a Cup ride next year."
Yeah.
And if I don't have a Cup ride contract by the next race next week, that 22 ain't finishing the race. I'll tell you that right now.
No.
Any points he gained will be gone. So
then that leads us into the big guys for the weekend.
The main event, yes.
Main event, and wreck on lap 1. Because they had. I just forget his name now.
They tried. They say they build these cars with such exact tolerances, for wind tunnel, because restrictor plate. I don't know why, because half of them look like short track cars by the end of the race, anyways. But sometimes, with no practice, leads to things like tire rubs. And I'm trying to think who it was. He made a half a lap and rubbed both rear tires off the car.
It was the 8th crew chief was on the on Moody's show today, listening to it, and he said they had everything perfect, but then they couldn't even finish. They're one of their best cars, couldn't finish the lap because Christopher Bell was involved in that one. So.
Right, and that wasn't the brake check job that we had on the one restart. That was the next restart, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Like the lap 3 restart, when all of a sudden the field starts to wreck.
Yeah.
Because they were getting way too aggressive. Like, come on. The funny part is they all spread out a car length apart, by the back stretch anyway. So just do it. You don't need to push. If nobody else is pushing, just all give yourselves a car length, at least until the green flag drops. Yeah. That way you can run up on somebody, and you could bump them pretty good or something. And folks, NASCAR gave you this flat rear bumper for the tandem racing. Make sure that when you design the car, and I'm thinking, who would probably be the lead designer at Hendrick? Oh, probably Chad Knaus. Design it that if you're going to get pushed in a race, that the car doesn't drop its ass down because you're trying to cheat and get that rear spoiler out of the air. Because I know that's what you were doing, Chad. He had them set up that when you hit them, they drop the ass end down. Yeah. But instead, you have Jimmy Johnson blaming Clint Boyer, a veteran driver, for wrecking him.
We'll get to that one. So there was two of the bigger wrecks.
Yeah.
I did notice that the one number we've already talked about in the Xfinity Series was right front and center. The first two ones.
Yeah.
Multiple car wrecks, the 22, because
cheese face. Yep.
That's what he does.
Yep. He's not out there to make friends, Doug. He's not out there to make friends.
What did Cole say he had? That douchey smile or whatever?
Yeah.
But yeah. And then there was two other ones I did laugh about that he was actually just in front of the wrecks. But yeah, so there was the one that you were talking about where Jimmy wasn't going, although he had the 22 in front of him not going either. Yeah. But Clinton was kind of coming behind. He's like, and I love Clint's interview afterwards. He was like, "It's Talladega, you got to go. I've got to get up front. I want to go. You got to go."
They dropped the green. You got to go.
Yeah.
And then that's where I found out about this engineering setup through Clint, and I fully agree with him, not just because he's my favorite driver, but if Jimmy Johnson really has a problem with Clint Boyer, I suggest he man up and face him face to face.
Don't think he will.
No, Jimmy, although Jimmy's got the cardio, we know about all this marathon triathlon stuff, so he'll have no problem running away from Clint after.
Yeah. Because his car owner sure did run pretty good from Clint.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah. So
Kurt Busch ended up in the air on top of a car.
Yeah, with Cole Custer. I think he still had the skid mark on top of his car afterwards, he said.
I bet he's got a couple skid marks in the car too.
Yeah. Which then led to my my highlight of the day. Truex winning stage 2.
Right. Which, kind of helps get those stage points based off of him not finishing the race.
And something happened right near the end of stage 2 we will talk about later on, because it led to something that happened later on.
Okay.
Or yeah, we can touch on it later on too. So we can touch on it because race was it was a Talladega race. It was
it's Junior's fault. Run around the top. Well,
then you have to talk about is the wrecks.
Yeah, and we had the highlight for let's be honest, the Xfinity and the Cup race was both. It'd be a 4-car pack on the bottom line, slowly moving up or trying to. And the big debate of someone's going to drop down in front of them. Someone's going to. Well, no, nobody's dropping down in front of them. But we ended up with the usual shake-up at the end of the race, and we had a bunch of. Actually, for a lot of the race, we had a lot of non-playoff drivers running up front, and it wasn't because there's a bunch of guys hanging out back, although we saw a few of those almost comically at the start. Like literally guys coming on the radio, like Harvick going, "Nope, I'm out of here." And Hamlin going, "Nope, I'm out of here."
That's how Clint avoided that first one as well, too.
Yep. Yeah, because I was like, "No, Clint, you need the playoff point." Oh, okay.
Yeah. So then let's fast forward to the end, because that's all that people have been talking about the last couple of days.
Right.
Is the end. So Denny makes the pass to avoid the wreck.
Yep.
Gets the win.
Yep.
Di Benedetto finishes second, then gets placed at the end. Correct? Or is it the end or is it the tail end of the lead lap? Whatever.
Like that. Either way, he got penalized.
Got penalized for forcing Buescher in the 17 down, which then Buescher then went sideways. Denny had to make the action to go left. Now, a lot of people that I've seen online have conveniently stopped their video once Buescher did get it corrected, but Denny was still below the yellow line at that point.
Right.
He said, look, he just made the pass because there was no car, no car side. There was nothing going on in front of him, which I love, because then Dave Moody then stopped his video that he had of Buescher being sideways in front of Denny and Denny having to go low. So
right.
So then Di Benedetto gets penalized moving for going down, forcing someone below the yellow line. Everybody's upset with that. Going at near the end of stage 2, we seen Joey Logano up front. Then he fell back, and they were like, something's wrong with Logano. But then it comes out that he forced somebody low, and he had to drop. Right, so NASCAR had already made that call once.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking that they also made that call, I believe, against William Byron, or Logano did it against William Byron, but they made the call on one other person too, where they penalized the person that forced someone below,
right,
but didn't give the guy that had to go below a penalty because he was forced. So, for people saying that NASCAR wasn't consistent with that penalty, yes, they were.
Well, and the biggest problem is it's half a rule, which is you're allowed to block in NASCAR. A lot of series, you are not allowed to block.
Yep.
You're allowed to block in NASCAR, but you can't block like that, which is a bit of a joke. Personally, I think we need to reinforce the fenders on the cars from caving in, from lateral movement. And if a guy comes down to you, screw it, tag him, turn him. Put him in the infield.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what it's come down to. Because either you can block or you can't block.
Yeah.
I understand the double yellow line rule because fucking Jeff Gordon, he was the king of it in the 90s. He would run damn near to the inside wall. Well, there was more grass there at the time, but he'd run to the bottom of the apron and then swoop up 20 car lengths at the last second, expecting someone to let him in. And usually him or Ernie Irvin or Jeff Bodine, you were usually the three culprits that love doing that move. And, they'll get him away. It's like the asshole that scoots up ahead of you on the interstate and jukes in front. Oh, they'll let me in. Because that's what they were doing. And it caused a few wrecks. And, I'm really just keep the boys have at it. Guy does a bonehead move like that, you thump him. You get out of the infield, you go into the infield care center, you say to the doctor, is he okay? Is he going to live? Yep. And, tag him one.
So that led, so we'll go there. So Denny ends up winning.
Right.
JGR 1-2 with Eric Jones getting the second place.
Mixed reaction from the fans.
Yeah. So
you almost thought Kyle Busch won by the sound of the crowd.
Yeah, Chase Elliott, I almost called him Briscoe. Chase Elliott had to go to the back. Right. He got disqualified, but then they reinstating him.
Of course they did. He's a golden boy.
Yeah. So that's that. So then the big thing, the big talk that
good question. We have a question.
Whoa.
Pardon my ignorance, but what is the car weight limit? Is it around 1,500 kilograms? Yes, in fact, based off conversion rates. It used to be, and I think it still is, 3,500 pounds. Although years past, it used to be 3,450. Nationwide used to be 3,200, then 3,400. I think they're up to 35 as well now.
When he says nationwide, that he's meaning the Xfinity.
Right. Same as Xfinity used to be 105-inch wheelbase and Cup was 110. I think they're both 110 now. Same as the motors. I think just smaller carburetor. Oh, no, wait. They use fuel injection in Cup now. New thing 10 years ago. I think they're still using carburetor in Xfinity, which used to be a 390 or 500 carb instead of a 750 or 780. There we go.
Another thing here now that I'm just kind of getting into my head that I did see that what I listened to all day was because I think I did message you this morning because it seemed like every show on SiriusXM today was, if you could change one rule, what would it be? That is what I messaged this morning, isn't it? I think so.
Let's take a look.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah. One rule. One rule.
I heard some people say some good stuff today, and I heard some people say some stuff, and you're like, your thought process doesn't go all the way to the top.
That's a good one. Because I'm only allowed one.
Well, just off the top of my head for myself, because I don't have the rule book right with
Bring
me.
back 5-ply tires? No.
Would be just for like Talladega, Daytona, last say 3 laps or whatever. If you go below the yellow line, you go below the yellow line. Have at it.
Okay, I got one. And it's not huge. It's easy to implement. Because we got these goddamn stages. I hate stage racing, right? I get it, because they're trying to increase, they don't want people hanging at the back the whole race, blah, blah, blah. Okay. At the end of each stage, you don't throw a caution. I think I've mentioned on here before. You just keep running green flag, but we have scoring. We have timing and scoring. We can say, okay, these were the top 10 running at the end of lap, whatever.
Yeah,
they get 10 points.
It's like the old leading at the half.
Yeah, the Gatorade bonus, the halfway bonus.
Yeah.
Which Cale Yarborough used to quite often win somehow, some way. Because it was 80 grand at Daytona, I remember. Yeah. It was always Cale would just drive like a madman, win it, and then...
Heard one guy today call in to say that he would like to still have the green, white, checkered flag finish, except make it 5 laps.
5 laps.
Instead of just...
You know what? That's not a bad idea, because it would cut down that stupidity factor.
Well, he says he feels like he gets cheated on a green, white checker. Right? And it was in the Moody show. So Moody says, so we need to have like the green, white checkered finish, right? And on the weekend, he said, if we would have did that, we would have lost about 5 cars because they ran out of gas. And then had to throw another caution anyway because we got cars on the track that don't have gas.
Yeah. Well, it's like I understand for safety reasons how quick they are to throw cautions these days, but I still remember the days where you just park your car along the inside fence and they threw it. We'll pick it up under the next caution. Stuff like that.
Yep. So that's the race stuff.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of a few rules off my top of my head. Like, unfortunately, most of the rules in place are for safety. Like I'd love to get rid of pit road speed. I miss, especially green flag pit stops. Guys, bring it in. All right. And just 4-wheel slide.
Now talking pit road speed, you got the truck race on the weekend there. I don't know if you've seen that, but Austin Hill clipped, I forget which crew member it was.
Yeah, he walked it up.
That he just kind of, tail whipped him, and the guy was all laughing afterwards, but still it was...
Yeah, he bent the rear spoiler.
Yeah.
That's there you go. Movable rear spoilers again. I love that option. Guys come out with a mallet to whack down the rear spoiler. Oh, she's too tight. All right. Or give it more speed. We're going to trim it out. You're going to get 3 more miles an hour at Daytona, but she's going to be loose.
Yeah. Just had that spoiler laid flat out.
Well, they had a minimum, but it was like 30 degrees. And you could run 30 to 50 kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was insane. It was like, well, we're going to let you go because the final pit stop, you'd see everybody beating on that rear spoiler for the final pit stop. Or the gas man kind of leaned into it with his elbow while he's filling up. I'm like, nice. Yeah,
it was that. So then before we get into silly season stuff, I gave you some wrong info off air. This weekend at Port Royal, in the World of Outlaws, Donnie Schatz is going for win number 300.
He's going for win 300.
He doesn't have it yet. He's going for win 300, which a big accomplishment. I think he's still under halfway to the king. But nice.
Welcome our additional viewers joining in, whoever you may be.
Yeah,
we're briefly at 3.
Whoa. So Schatz going for win 300. So hopefully I can wear my Donnie Schatz shirt next week
Nice.
on the show because it's still. I think my shirt is like a 8-time champ, and he's at like 10. I really need to get a new shirt.
The shirt's so outdated, man.
Yeah, and I can't remember who won my World of Outlaws Outlaw Showdown from 2009. All I remember from the 2009 night over at the dirt track. You were not with me that night. That was my first time at the dirt track. Austin Dillon did win the hooligan race.
Right. The Circle Track Demolition Derby.
Yes. Yeah. The crate late model series out of North Carolina there that's just takes like 8 hours for the feature to run.
Still better than sprint cars.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some good sprint car. I know speaking here.
Hey, late models have starters. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but
they hold more than 5 gallons of fuel.
I got to watch Donnie Schatz win an outlaw race here, sprint car race at Oswego. 30 laps, green flag the whole race.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I had like when they're green flag, I always go back to the Auto Parts Bumper to Bumper Sprint Car Series, which was 410 Sprint Cups or Sprint Car Series that ran both dirt and asphalt. I remember Tim Fedewa's brother was in the series. I got to talk to him that night. I can't remember his first name. I just remember he's Tim Fedewa's brother. And there was a couple other guys that did some stuff. I remember they made it up into trucks in the next couple of years. Austin Cameron comes to mind, I think. And they ran, well, first they didn't have the roof spoilers weren't quite jacked up enough for an asphalt half-mile track because they were turning 12-second laps. Mm-hmm. And they went, no, you can't do that on a half mile. So they jacked them up so they backed them down to about 14 to 15 second laps, and they ran a 50 lap feature in under 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That was insane. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And all I kept thinking, because I was hanging out right along the fence in the middle of the turn, I'm like, if they get out of shape, we're done because they're clearing this fence.
Yeah. I've sat in turn one or stood in turn one at Brighton there, and it's.
Oh, this was at Kawartha Speedway.
Okay. But, yeah, and it's not like that first night when we went to the dirt track, you and I, where we see Tony Stewart blow 4 motors in 4 races.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say the first dirt race we went to see would have been at Brighton where we saw the lawnmower races.
Yeah.
Modified class was entertaining. The stock class,
very slow.
Literally, it's like watching someone mow their lawn.
Yes. So we're already.
They dropped green and they didn't speed up.
I've actually went with a list of what we're going to be doing here this week.
All right. Bring it on.
I did not have 40 minutes at the race recaps before we got into silly season stuff, because there's still like the meat and potatoes of this thing left that we'll usually take like an hour to talk about.
That's right.
But so silly season, prediction was wrong. Oh well.
Kyle Larson is not going to Trackhouse Longhouse Workhorse Racing.
Yeah. So Trackhouse announced today they're running a partnership with RCR. So
RCR happens to have some surplus chassis and motors available now that they won't be supplying the 13.
There's now a surplus building across the street.
That's right.
Even Chalk could talk about that. He's like, no, maybe I might have to go across the street and just see what's going on, because there's something new going on there. Because he has his little studio inside the RCR shop.
Right.
But yeah, so they've announced a partnership with RCR, so they will be getting all of their stuff from RCR. I guess Justin Marks, he talked about that he's had this stuff going on, trying to get this ready for a couple of years now. So we can say it's a new team coming in, but they've already got stuff in place. They know what's going on.
Well, plus right? I think Justin's fielded his own equipment in like GT racing for years.
Yes, and he also raced Xfinity as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
but like main sports car racing was his main background, I think.
Yeah, and he had that dirt track team, right? So he knows what he's doing with the team. So they've announced their partnership. They will drive. They will have the number 99 car.
Nice. Always been a fan of that number.
With Daniel Suarez as the driver. So
sure,
still the minority driver.
I recommend putting up a good size reserved sign for Daniel for his parking spot, because he had a small sign at Gibbs and nobody cared and used the spot. Because remember, we saw him walking in the one day and he was bitching because somebody was parked in his parking spot. Yeah. He had to park a block away, like down where we were, with the rest of the grade unwashed.
Yeah. So he's going there. So he has said that he's going at this a different way this season than he did with the Gaunt brothers this year, because let's face it, Gaunt brothers put that ride together like 7 days before the 500 this year.
That's how we roll.
Yeah. So, he's going into a thing that's already got a whole bunch of stuff already in place. And
we should mention to those who don't know, Gaunt Brothers Racing is the only Canadian-owned team in NASCAR. Well, yes. No, Gosselin has a team. Gosselin Racing has one. The only Cup team.
Yes.
And I think they're all. I don't think there's any part-time teams necessarily this year.
No, not really. I'll get into a bit of that later on too.
Yeah, because I saw some odd numbers yesterday. I was like, 53. Who the hell drives a 53? That's a field filler.
Yeah. So there's that, and like we talked about on here before, Alex Bowman, sliding over to the 48.
We had suspected that for a while. I don't know if we mentioned it on air or not. We should have, but
I think we did. Greg Ives will be going with him,
and we will say it for the 100th time on here. Kyle Larson not in the 88.
Yeah, I'm not. Will there be an 88?
Right.
We still do. That was put out there as well too.
We haven't even hit the prediction part, right? Like, because will there be a third Childress car next year?
That's on my list here right now. But yeah, it's because Daniels is going over. Ives is going over, so there's no place for Daniels. Maybe Daniels switched to the 24, because that is the other Hendrick news that came out. Was it last week?
Yeah, maybe we mentioned it last week because Chad earned himself a promotion by caught cheating again.
Yes, that's right. Yes, so there's that. So who knows? So then,
have we heard where Bubba Wallace has he landed yet?
Oh yeah, we talked about that last week.
Oh yeah,
he's going to the Denny Hamlin, Michael
Hamlin. Right. Yeah, I'm just playing musical chairs in my head, so that means the 43 is open.
It's
maybe
43. Oh yeah, Richard Petty ride is open. So with that being said, now that Suarez has a seat, Bubba has a seat. So that's left out there. So we'll go back here. So there's the Gaunt Brothers seat is open.
Right.
Spire Motorsports has a seat open, I believe.
Right.
No, they do not.
Oh.
The Australian guy that ran this weekend for them, he wrecked.
David.
Yes, he's going to be in their one seat.
Okay.
I say one seat, but I'll get into that later on.
Right. So the 43 is open.
43 is open. 88.
88, maybe. Right.
So there's that there. So.
Well, we'll say the 88 open, because if not, they're going to sell that charter to somebody.
We'll get to that in a minute too. So then that leaves, where will Jones be?
Right.
Yeah, Ty Dillon is there. It's the autograph on your hat.
Right.
The guy that autographed the Daytona 500 hat, who's never won a Daytona 500,
or even had competed in the Cup Series at that time.
Exactly. Yeah.
He was a Truck Series driver.
Yes. So there's Eric Jones, Ty Dillon, Corey LaJoie is still out there.
Right. Matt DiBenedetto is still out there.
because he hasn't signed yet with Wood Brothers. So Wood Brothers could have a seat open, and I'm now talking about LaJoie, so that means the 32's got a seat open.
Yep. And you know what? LaJoie to the 21 possibly, because LaJoie's worked at Penske for years building shocks.
Yes. I know that has come up.
But on the other hand, he's worked there for years building shocks, and they haven't given him a ride.
Yeah. So there's that. So there's Jones, Dillon, LaJoie, Kyle Larson. He's brought that thing yesterday or the day before about how, just kind of
on his website,
giving a timeline of what has happened or what did happen,
right,
in his mind of the whole situation.
And I've heard that by Friday we should hear an announcement from NASCAR.
Yeah, and I heard one guy went and put online, I think on Twitter, I'd seen how he said how Kyle's gone into hiding after that.
No.
Check out any kind of a race kind of website, anything, you'll see that he's about racing. He's not in hiding at all.
Yeah.
Right? Like, get out from under your rock and look and actually see what's going on.
Yeah. There's more to life than NASCAR, folks.
Yeah. So there's Jones, like I said, I'll repeat again, Jones, Dillon, LaJoie, Larson. There's those four guys for the Go Fast, Petty, possibly a Hendrick, right?
Yep.
But then we ask, like we've already talked about earlier, is there room at the inn for Briscoe and Cindric?
Right. Cindric, he'll be running Xfinity at least another year. Yeah. He's not ready to move up yet.
Well, he said he wants to go.
That doesn't mean shit. He's not ready.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Daddy's top guy at the company. We'll see just what that brings.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if he ends up driving the 21 next year, won't see me wearing that Wood Brothers shirt anymore on here.
We'll just call him Paul.
Yeah.
Yes. So then that then goes to where guys will go, because Trackhouse they've got the partnership with RCR, and they have a charter.
Right.
They didn't have one before.
Right.
Right. So they've got the charter. They're moving into a building and a place that had a charter, but that charter has moved to someone else. So as of today, here's the extra charters that were kind of floated around. Okay, so Levine Family Racing left.
Right. Yep.
Sold the farm to Spire Motorsports.
Right.
To give Spire Motorsports a second charter.
Right.
They have two. Germain Racing's charter had been sold to the unnamed team of Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan.
Right.
Okay. So Trackhouse, where did you get your charter from? Right? Trackhouse Racing announced that it will have the Spire Motorsports number 77 charter that they are leasing from Spire Motorsports, because Spire Motorsports has said it obtained a third charter. I didn't know anyone else is giving up her charter. So who's giving up their charter and will lease the 77 to Trackhouse? So that third charter, we said who's got open rides. Is Go Fast not going to have a charter? Or did they lease it to somebody else?
Right. Because teams have done that before. They've gotten a charter and sold their charter in order to. And once you have one, I'm sorry, if you finish outside the top 36, you lose it.
Yeah. So, and there's a whole new. I didn't print off the whole new rules for the charters, but it's.
Yeah. If you own that 36 charter, you could start and park like every week or phone it in. Whereas I could work my ass off for years and not have any guarantee.
So I think the new rules are, if you have a charter and you lease it out, you have to use that charter the next year. If you lease it out again or you don't use it, you lose it. Right? So we thought, is it Go Fast that's not using their charter next year? Did they maybe lease it to Spire for 1 year?
Is the 88's charter for lease?
I was just going to say that. We haven't, it's what's going on with that there is did the 88 lease it to Spire? Is Spire going to go with Hendrick
Right.
as a satellite team? And maybe Hendrick puts a young driver in that seat. Who knows?
Which they don't really have anybody ready to move up.
No.
Unless you want to give it to Allgaier.
Or Noah Gragson.
He's not ready.
But Noah Gregson's only in that seat for one more year.
Right.
And then that other kid, Sam Mayer, is going to be hopping in that seat. So if they lease the 88 to somebody for a year, it comes back. Will Gregson go in that seat?
True. Good question. Yeah.
Right.
Also, it was announced a new engine deal between RCR and Hendrick Motorsports, effectively taking it down to one major Chevy manufacturer now, or engine builder, I should say. Sort of like Roush does all the Fords. I see it. Yeah, they must do Stewart Haas as well, because I think that was part of the deal. Roush got his greasy fingers into it to get to be the sole. Roush Yates is the sole engine supplier for Ford.
Yeah. I can't remember if Stewart is doing his own engines or not there, because they've got the F1 shop right there. They can do engines no problem.
Except they don't do their own engines for F1.
True. Okay, yeah. Not to know.
Yeah. They run year-old Ferraris as far as I know.
All I know, going back on the charter thing, is we can thank Mr. Rob Kaufman for all of this stuff, who kind of came in, ran MWR to the ground, and then hopped. Then, I don't know, did he kick Felix Sabates out of Childress? Because he kind of went in there, and all of a sudden Sabates was like, "Yeah."
You mean out of Ganassi?
Yeah. Did I say Childress?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was thinking ECR engines with the Earnhardt, Ganassi.
People ask. Third question: who builds Stewart Haas engines? It says Doug Yates will be a major part of the plan. President Roush Yates engines. Blah blah blah. That's from 2016. So I'm assuming nothing's changed.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Rob Kaufman, who kind of came in and said, we have to have this charter system because of and it's like, you know what?
I don't think you do.
No, because he did think, we're going to go and we're going to do everything get everything as a package. And it was like,
yeah, because he wanted a franchise, because he wanted something that was tangible. Even if you run the company into the ground, you can still sell that. I think he was looking at for stick and ball sports. He was looking at the way the Leafs were run for a decade or two.
Yeah. And I think it was also him looking for another way to support his car auction company, but we all know that Barrett Jackson is way better. And I did say that on Twitter, commenting to him a bunch of times.
Yep.
But yeah. So that's what I have on silly season.
Yeah, I can't really think of what else. Anything that piqued my brain there. Like I say, just a more consolidation in NASCAR. We got to do something. Like, I don't know if teams need to start selling chassis secondhand more. Like, we need more Gaunt Brothers racing. Like, we were saying off air, or I was saying early in the week, I watched this little documentary here on YouTube on field fillers. And it was showing the ebbs and flows, strong car count years, soft, this and that. And I remember a lot of it being a long time fan, but I didn't realize, like, through the 90s, let's say they ran a 43 car field because they had the championship provisional. 43 car field, really, you had 40, not even 38 full-time teams, and then 5 part-timers on any given week. But that led to the fact that there was 60 plus different cars entered over the course of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So we need more of that, more part-time teams.
Oh, and, people always talked about the starting parks.
Yeah.
The starting parks kept people in jobs in NASCAR there.
Yep.
Like, we lost a whole bunch of people after that was done. Like Tommy Baldwin's only comes back once or twice.
Yeah.
Right? Truck Series, we lost. I think were we not in Charlotte when Red Horse Racing went under?
Yep.
Like
that happened. We watched
their shop
one day, they were closed the next.
Exactly. I was just gonna say that. Then it was like bare bones the next day. The starting parks kept people in jobs. We had more. The car counts were higher.
Well, and let's be honest, every start and park team, even after they mandated you had to have a pit crew because some of these teams didn't have pit crews.
No.
You know what? I'm still the belief you should be able to share a pit crew. Up until the early 2000s, Dover only had 42 pit stalls for 43 cars. So if you qualified 41st or 42nd, guess what? You're sharing a pit stall with somebody and the pit crew. And each one of these even start park teams employs a minimum of 4 to 6 guys, including the team.
And they're going
driver, mechanic, and everything else.
When you think about it, with the way they ran this year, the one-day shows going in there, those starting park teams, would they still be starting parks because you're not going there for the weekend?
That's right. Let's be honest,
one day, and next year,
most of the starting parks weren't necessarily. There was 1 or 2 guys that would start and park, 5 laps in, but there was guys that would make it to the competition caution or a full fuel. Because you would qualify on one set of tires, they'd start on those scrub tires, and however long those tires held out, they would race. And they also need to bring back teams being able to sell their tires during a race. Because if Jeff Gordon crashed on lap 10, Rick Hendrick would sell those tires either to his other teams, so they'd have an extra set, which somebody would say was an unfair advantage, fine. Or you'd have the field filler team say, hey, can I buy the rest of these tires? Because you're selling them at a discount back anyways, because Goodyear never paid you full price back for them.
Yeah.
And they say, go ahead. So then that meant Morgan Shepherd could run the whole race.
Yeah.
You also had the problem with, I think it was Bristol, where they're having a problem where they wouldn't let people scrub in the tires. So everybody was stuck on stickers, but stickers sucked. Terry Labonte had an issue early in the race, and he spent the rest of the race scuffing in tires for all the other Hendrick cars. You'd be able to run 3 laps, and you'd have blue rims. Run 3 laps, have red rims. And NASCAR parked the car. Because, no, you can't just...
No.
You're basically prepping tires for your, Yeah. But I kind of liked it.
But then also with the...
literally burning rubber. Exactly.
The way they went this year with, you weren't running a new engine each time.
Nope.
That's saving money. So, really, those starting park cars, it hasn't been really, I guess, 5-6 years maybe, I guess now, that the starting parks haven't been around.
But you know what? They've given up because NASCAR has screwed them over so bad. NASCAR would rather have not even a full field. And see, this is one of the things that's a bit of a joke. When NASCAR owns half the tracks on the schedule, you're not going to have the promoters bitching, hey, I'm advertising a 40-car field. And that's what started the field filler. I don't know if you know that, the original field filler. It was a race, back, we're talking late 50s, early 60s, when they were running 60 times a year. And they showed up at a track, and the promoter had advertised 26 cars to start the race or something like that. And it was something like Elmo Langley. There's only 25 cars. Well, on the way to the race, they had bought a car. They had heard that there was an old whatever car, from Daytona 2 years earlier, had ended up at a guy's farm in Virginia. They checked it out. They bought the car on the way up. It didn't have a motor in it. So they rolled the car off the trailer. They tied down the front springs so the front end sat down so you couldn't tell there was no motor in it. They pushed it up to the start grid, went up to the tow truck driver and said, hey, can you bump start us? And of course, tow truck, yeah, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you guys start the field. And at that time, they counted the pace laps. So they went out, he did a lap, and they said, he took one of his mechanics, gave him a helmet, just said, hey, let the tow truck push you for a lap, wheel it in right past the start-finish line behind the pit wall, get out, curse, swear, act like you're freaking out, blah, blah, blah. So the mechanic went through the whole thing, got the bump start. He's flipping switches, beating on the dash, going around the track, wheels it in, gets out, he's kicking it, throws his helmet, makes a whole big scene out of it. And sure enough, that promoter started 26 cars, and he almost collected a paycheck for that other car starting. Yeah. And the way he did the number, he was number like 22 or something. He cut the 2 in half and flipped it down to make it a 23. Mm-hmm. So that's the original start part. Didn't even have a motor in the car, folks.
Well, even you saying that, talking about the starting park, I remember, and beating and banging on the dashboard would be when we ended up getting free tickets for the then nationwide race.
Right.
We got to sit up high in the grandstand in Charlotte, and because we had radios, we got to hear why that one guy was beating and banging on the dash, being the guy that you were kind of following the race anyway, being Joe Nemechek.
When the dashboard fell down inside the car?
Yes, yeah. Because you were listening to him at the time. We're like, why is he going in? He's like, I don't know. He just called for a Phillips.
He's got a dash in his lap. You're like, what? What does a dash in his lap? Like, because you're thinking, was that like a qualifying lap? Like dash in his lap, dash for cash. Like I was like, no, he beat on the dash and it fell down and it's sitting in his lap.
So now he's like calling for he's on the track coming in, calling for a screwdriver.
Yeah, because his crew chief consists of his crew chief and one other guy, because he was essentially, fielding his own equipment and yeah, good old Joe. Yeah, I remember that was the time I listened into a Morgan Shepherd during the race. What do you need? Give me a new right front. He only ever got what? How many's more? He's taking one, Doug. What? I'm like, right front. That's it. Just a new right front.
That was the one thing I missed when they did change over the coach lot from where we were camped before. Is
saw Morgan Shepherd like every day?
Yeah, we get up early and Morgan would be out there walking the dog, and that was the fun part.
I think I saw him roller skating once.
Yeah.
And that was just because he used to roller skate over to the garage area because it's quicker than walking, and he didn't have a golf cart.
Yeah, same as that first year that we were in Charlotte. That first morning we woke up, and there was like a noise, and I look outside the tent, and you were like, "What's that noise?" I'm like, "It's a horse walking through the infield at Charlotte." And it's when they had the Budweiser Clydesdales there, and they were actually walking the Clydesdales up and down the camp roads.
Right.
Yeah. That or Juan Pablo, like, and that was the other thing, because you're there during the week, not a lot of people were there, and you got Juan Pablo Montoya flying with a remote control airplane with his son just out in the grass.
Yep. Yeah. Well, technically it was roped off because there was the one yellow rope, because that was the driver.
That was the media parking. That was the media parking, because that's when we did get to see Booty get to see his setup in his car. That beat up.
Because he always had. Well, he had the handicap spot. He had the first spot in. They always left it for him.
Beat up Firebird that came in. That was just all like a rust.
Yeah, like a '92 Z28.
Yeah. Yeah. But.
Yeah, I wonder what Booty's going to be doing next year, since Geico's Jermaine's shut down. He's been there forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, good times. Yeah. Yeah, the amount of times I would see Morgan Shepherd, he'd come out of his coach, and I'd be standing like right there, and I'd stop, and we kind of look at each other. He's like, "You're not going to say anything?" I'm like, just give him the nod. You give me the nod. And then after that, I was, it's that guy. He's cool.
It's just some old guy in just a pair of track pants and no shirt on.
Yeah.
Take his dog for Elite. Yeah. Take his dog for Elite.
Yep. Miniature poodles.
Yeah. It's fun times, and hopefully we'll have an upcoming show of more.
I wanted to mention, I don't know if you happen to notice, this week at Talladega, we had the return of something for the first time this year. Well, in a long time this year. They had some infield camping.
Or was that drivers' coaches that were parked along that side?
No, they mentioned during the race they actually had limited socially distanced infield camping. Now, I don't know if they're renting out. They did one small section and it was every third site or every other site, for
I've seen a
buffers.
bunch of buses that were parked really close. So I just thought those were drivers.
Yeah,
stuff,
no,
right?
there was one spot apparently somewhere.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, they did allow some infield camping, which is awesome. And that's the thing, if they allowed the speedways to do every other site, and as long as you socially, you leave your site, put on a mask.
Well, yeah, because you look at our sites in Charlotte, they were what, 20 by 25 or 20 by 30,
Something like that,
right?
yeah.
So you're doing the social distancing. You should be good.
Yeah, because even in your site, you're never butted right up against talking to your neighbor type thing, because it's usually trailer, use half the site, they do a trailer, half the site type thing. So you all have your own small space. And like say, if you're going to go take a leak at the bathhouse, put on a mask.
Yep. But
pretty simple.
Like
of course, the lineup would be all the way to our campsite if they socially distance for the shower lines by Saturday morning.
Yeah, no. You can't see it. That's why.
And Tom, we should also mention, your chances of catching COVID in the infield is next to none because everyone has so much disinfectant in their system.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, you're pickled. But with our camper, we're like the luxury there because we have the bathroom and the shower right in the camper, which I really should start charging people for.
Yeah,
because I had a couple of people ask, but it's really small.
I just remember someone wanting to petition use of your shower, and we weren't sure that they were going to fit in the shower.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah. It's a small shower.
Because someone thought they were all that, but someone had every time they came to the races each year, they had added a little bit to all that. They were all that and a little bit more.
Yeah, but yeah. So hopefully soon we will have a show with just a full of 1 hour stories that we've heard about forever that I think
wait till the off season, right?
I think these guys need to put some sort of on record because I think there are a lot of stories that the Unsolved Mysteries show would be able to come back and and do a show on that.
Like the Keystone Cops going, which way did the golf cart go? What golf cart?
Yeah, I think their stories are even better. I think of having to, because it was all before any kind of real technical advantages.
And before these could document everything.
Yes, they've got a lot of stories of people in wrong tents and having to remodel a camper in the lineup getting in to the track.
Or the fact that back in the day was like a gold rush because there was no assigned camping. You would just first come, first serve, and you would go out there and you'd have your stakes and you'd rope off your area.
Yeah.
And guys were roping off huge, like
in a cube van. Yep.
Yep.
So yeah,
and sneaking things inside of barbecues and.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can get those guys on because a couple of my favorite guys.
Yeah,
I would do anything for.
Yeah,
when we're down there.
Yeah, I definitely. I'd love to get T-Bone on here.
Yeah, then that would be 3.
Well, because I'm thinking I know.
Now you're making me add people. I'm going to say 4 because we need Grant.
Grant, Marshall, Mike, T-Bone.
Mike, for people watching, Mike is number 1 to be on here because COVID made him miss race number 2 or 3 at Charlotte.
You only missed 1 prior because his son decided to be born on a Sunday.
Yeah, and so they weren't even going to let him in the track just to step foot just for the green flag and be able to head out. So
yeah. So yeah. Okay, well, I was just thinking because I spent a lot more time with T-Bone than you have.
Yes. Yeah.
And especially late at night, just the two of us sitting up talking there. I remember
because he's got stories himself.
Well, yeah, and well, that was I was thinking
It's his mom. His mom was at the race that Fireball Roberts was killed.
Curtis Turner.
One of them on the backstretch at Charlotte.
It's the only time she went to Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
First and last race. Yeah. I was just thinking that night where we dropped off Marshall's trailer up on the hill because we were still down below. But remember, Trent was staying at the trailer that night.
Yeah.
And so that would have been that Wednesday night, whatever it was. You had gone back down because I think Karma and Grayson were with us that year. So you were down hanging out with them, and I just hung out with Trent for a few hours.
Yeah.
And I almost didn't make it back to the trailer, even though there was nothing in between us. There was no other campers.
Nothing. Yeah.
I still damn near got lost.
Yeah.
Because that was a really good night.
And if he comes on the show, Marshall will probably admit that he rused the day that he lent us that hammer.
That'll be the first question.
Yes.
So do you rue the day you lent us that hammer?
Yeah. Because we haven't got rid of it since.
Yeah. But. Yeah, because Marshall sounds like during the wild time, like in the 80s, he was a bit of a wild man in the infield. He was right down there giving her with the best of them. And he used to hang out there a lot outside of track days too, you know, like some of the stories, especially talking about Alan Kowicki and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely.
So,
okay. Well, wow, we definitely went overtime, just like the race on the weekend.
Yeah, we'll get into that again. That's why NBC cut off and went to NBCSN because they went an hour into their into their other programming for the race. People are upset
to do that.
But
that's because apparently some fans bitched 15 years ago. We can't end a race under caution.
Yeah.
Why not?
We need a rule. But yeah. So
yeah. There we are. I don't have anything to add. Do you have anything to add?
Not at all. Not at all.
All right. Well, thanks for the questions and comments from Bent Tom and anyone else that was tuned in this evening. We're looking at the Charlotte Roval. I wish we were hanging out on Redneck Hill.
Yeah, Redneck Hill. I got the Charlotte Ola Showdown shirt.
Right.
But yeah.
There we are. So enjoy the Roval racing. It's the cutoff race for the Cup Series. Yeah, it's going to be good. So until next time, I'm Ben. He's Doug.
Keep it high.
What?
With your thing you're wearing around your neck, we're hoping that we can get back to our Panama, Charlotte Motor Speedway next year.
Yes. There we are. And rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen.